begin or resume tour. From the main SOVA screen, once you are logged in, choose Begin, Resume Tour. The screen that opens will indicate the tours that exist at your facility. The first of which here in our example has not been completed, but it has been started. So we'll go ahead and we'll resume this tour by selecting it. In the screen that opens, this is telling us that these 3 button locations have been successfully scanned. They are red. This button has not been scanned, but it has a comment associated with it. Comments can be added by holding your finger down on a tour location and adding comment. Adding comment might be useful if, for example, you were attempting to scan this point, either the point wouldn't scan or possibly the button itself was missing altogether. You might want to add a comment in there so management would know that they need to take care of that and perhaps switch out and put in a new RFID button for that location. Let's go ahead and click or tap the food and beverage exec offices here. That opens up a location hint. This is useful for first-time security officers who may not know where this button is located. This gives them some information. This says to the left of the door stopper on the west wall. Other options would be to have some assistance navigating to that location. Or in our case, we're going to go ahead and select View Image to view an image of that location. So this shows us an office with an arrow showing us that the button is located somewhere in this region. So you can see how very quickly a security officer can get up to speed and learn his routes rather quickly by using the location hints. In our case, as developers, we'll select Mark Scan, but in your case, you would actually be scanning the RFID button located on the wall. And that one is now successfully scanned. Let's go ahead and choose a few more. How about the valet department? So in your case, you would be scanning the valet department. You don't necessarily have to look at View Image if you don't find it necessary to know where that button is located. And what you'll be presented with once you've scanned that button on the wall, oftentimes are tasks that come up that are assigned to that button location. In this case, this is asking security to look at and see if there are any equipment hazards at this location. You have a few options. You can choose to confirm that task. Well, you have to confirm the task. You can choose Done and Back. You can choose Done and Add Comment. Or you can undo the scan and you can go back and complete other parts of the tour and show that you have not yet scanned that button. We'll go ahead and select Done and Back. You may not see a check mark in here, but that's just an artifact of the video capture software that we're using. But in our case, that has a check mark in it. We'll go ahead and select Done and Back. That takes us back to the screen. So you would continue along until all of these points are successfully scanned. Now, that would be in an ideal scenario. In some cases, you may actually submit the tour incomplete. And I'll show you how to do that in a moment. Up here at the top, this keeps a running total of what has been scanned and how many points are remaining. This tells us what time we began the tour, what time we resumed the tour, who actually is conducting the tour, and the tour itself. Now within the tour, this context menu has a couple new options. You have an opportunity to use a light. This is a flashlight that you can use within a tour. You can add tour notes to the tour, which would appear on the tour summary report for your manager. And in this case, we'll just go ahead and add in a comment that this is a tour comment. You have an opportunity here to do voice to text. If you would rather leave a long text comment, perhaps you don't want to type all of that, you can choose to voice dictate that comment in. In this case, we'll go ahead and select Save. Takes us back to our main screen. Other options within the screen will be to toggle this. Let's say, for example, you wanted to lock the screen because you kept touching it with your fingers, and by doing so it was changing to different screens. I could choose dim and lock. That would lower the intensity of the screen, save the battery power, but at the same time it would lock the screen, so any finger presses on the screen itself wouldn't have any activity associated with it. If I choose dim only, this would be if we were doing tours at night and we just didn't want people to really see what we were looking at on screen. We can reduce the intensity of the light, as you can see, considerably here. And that darkens it. And it's also nice to do that if you happen to be in an evening cocktail party and walking through. You can dim your screen as you go into that area so people can't see what you have on screen. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll put the intensity back the way that it was. Now, as I said, you would typically go through and you would try to complete as many of these as you can. If you were unable to complete these, or if you were able to complete them, you would come back to this screen and you would have an opportunity to submit these tours. There's a couple different ways you can submit a tour. You can either hold your finger down on the tour itself. There's a menu that comes up allowing you to perform several different activities. I can either pause, I can cancel the tour, I can restart it, which if I restart a tour, it wipes everything out that I've done and it starts it over fresh, or I can submit or email that tour. Other ways that you can submit a tour would be to select these buttons up here. By selecting this option, this would submit all of the tours that you currently have in process. So let's say, for example, I had a back of house tour, a guest floors, and a mobile patrol tour that were in various stages of being completed, perhaps either complete or unfinished. By selecting this option, it would submit everything that I've currently started and remove these check marks and return this back to a clean slate of tours that could then be restarted if I wanted to do additional tours.